Firerose, and this is No One Asked Her, where we speak the truth anyway. Today, I'm very grateful to be joined by my extraordinary guest, Mark Vicente. He's a cult survivor, a whistleblower, and the director of Narcissist Playbook, a new bone-chillingly brilliant documentary exposing the horror of narcissistic abuse. Mark,
bone-chillingly.
Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you.
It is bone-chillingly brilliant, truly.
Thank you.
I am so grateful that you have created this film because it is the perfect time culturally right now for this phenomenon that has affected so many people's lives and unfortunately destroyed so many people's lives. And you have made this documentary that, I mean, it is bone-chilling because narcissistic abuse is one of the most misunderstood and devastating things, I think, culturally right now that we're dealing with. And it's so misunderstood by the average person who just doesn't understand that this almost hidden, invisible abuse can completely decimate somebody's will to live and their entire reality. And because it's invisible, essentially, it's like something that is just really hard for the common person to understand unless they've been through it. And unfortunately, then the entire world of survivors that exist, you know, we need this we need the playbook of the playbook.
Yeah.
So I just love to hear about like how you're a brilliant director and filmmaker. How did you get inspired to make this specific film and why now?
Yeah. So my wife inspired me actually. So coming out of the NXIVM cult, you know, that whole story, it was my wife that actually woke me up. Like she started putting like movies and documentaries and like articles and, you know, in front of me. And at one point she put I was supposed to have a discussion with my cult leader on the phone.
My cult leader.
I didn't want to do because at that point I was like, something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, like, before you do that, read this article. And it was like something about the 12 or 20 things that the narcissist will do in a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I read the whole thing. I got on the phone with him and literally he did every single one of them. And when I hung up, I was like, oh, Lord, I am never speaking to him again. Mm-hmm. So I began studying narcissism, psychopathy. Now, we learned that stuff in the cult as well, but his brand of it.
That's
you know,
so fascinating.
Weird,
So he was like presenting it almost like we're on the inside of this. And instead he was actually using all of those tactics.
He was warning us about what these people were. We never thought, oh, wait, you are the thing you're warning us about.
Yes.
So at a certain point, I think it was after the trial. So that was 2017.
Okay.
A lot of stuff happened. It's all in the HBO series.
Yes.
After the trial.
Which is brilliant, by the way. The Vow.
Thank you. Yeah. It is amazing. I agree. I agree. It's a very, very deep series. And there's two seasons.
Yeah.
She said to me, and we were super broken.
Yeah.
Just emotionally. And she said to me, you know, why don't you take all this energy? Why don't you make a film about narcissism? I was like, that's a great idea. I called a friend of mine that I'd worked with for years and I said, hey, do you want to make this film about narcissism? He's like, yes. Yeah. Because he had one in his family as well. And then a bunch of other people came on board. So we spent basically 5 years, you know, we've spent now 5 years, you know, shooting, editing, going back.
Wow.
You know, we spoke to so many more people that are than are in the film.
Yes.
But what I was trying to do for myself very selfishly is answer the question, like, how did I not see it? What did I miss?
Which is the ultimate question that every survivor asks themselves almost like forever because it's so baffling. And to get your mind around essentially evil, like how do you really comprehend that some people are wired in this way that is, I mean, it's scientific, it's medical, essentially. However, these, like, I feel for me, it's like a spiritual aspect of the darkness. It's almost inconceivable because you want so much to believe that fundamentally in each human is that goodness and that kindness and that light, no matter what, because it's our humanity. It's what makes us human. So it's sort of, it's like, it's so obviously, like, you know, that's how the cognitive dissonance is so crippling because that false hope in the belief that these people are like us and that they're just, you know, either going through something really difficult misunderstood or that enough empathy and pouring enough into them and believing in them enough will heal it. But of course, that
was the other reason. So the one was to figure out how I missed it and also to understand the pathology of my cult leader because he never admitted anything.
Of course.
So in interviewing self-confessed narcissists, it was sort of like interviewing the archetype of my cult leader.
Wow.
And the other important thing, besides showing people how it works, is really having people understand exactly what you just said. These people exist. They're not going to be loved back into wellness. They have no desire to be well by our standards. They enjoy what they're doing. They have an illness, if you look at the DSM-5, but they're doing fine and everyone around them is a mess, right?
Yes.
So it is that the film is shocking because I'm trying to get past no, they're just wounded. Like, no. It's way more than just wounded, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's been my, compulsion, and it's taken a while. I mean, we're finding
5 years and it's coming out finally in July. Is that right?
So for people that donate early, they're going to see it July 17th.
Okay.
And we're having an online weekend, July 24th to the 26th. We'll show the film a number of times. We'll have a bunch of the people in the film, clinicians that, panels, Q&As.
And you guys got, the top of the top, like the rock stars of the narcissistic abuse world. And Dr. Ramani, who
Amazing.
is a hero of mine, she started following me during my very brutal public discard and smear campaign, which was, obviously just exact playbook that everyone goes through. But unfortunately, in my case, my abuser had a global megaphone, so it was accentuated and unfathomable, I think, to people who didn't understand, what they were seeing or what they weren't even thinking. Like, maybe Firerose isn't a fill in the blank, beep 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 beep. Maybe this is something else. And heroes like Dr. Ramani, immediately, without me saying a word, because I was completely silent, saw what was happening and, reached out to me. And those experiences meant the entire universe. I'm still dear friends with, this was less than 2 years ago, but I'm really close to some of the advocates and, content creators. And there's this whole world of phenomenally kind, loving, experts that have dedicated their careers, such as yourself, to unveiling this horrifying mystery that is something that when you're dealing with it, you feel like the only person on the planet. And I'm sure, I'm so interested to know in terms of the cult aspect, because it always feels it's like you're in a cult of one when it's a marriage or a situation where it's a direct relationship like that. But how does it play out when it's the one narcissist controlling multiple people at the same time in a cult situation?
It's not different. That's the thing I realized. And this is my obsession, was when I understood, it's my wife that helped me see it. Narcissistic abuse in a romantic context is the same as family, is the same as church, group, corporation, political party, could be an entire country. It's just the scale, right? So all the patterns that you see in a romantic relationship, the cult leader's doing as well. There's all the love bombing, and then there's, creating this intermittent reinforcement, creating the trauma bonding, the devaluation, the confusion. It's just on a larger scale.
Yes.
And the narcissist has more people to do their bidding.
Right.
They have all these flying monkeys.
Yeah. Does the cult members become the flying monkeys, and then they're all working, and then I'm sure the triangulation is insane because everyone's being triangulated against each other whilst being abused.
I had a conversation with my cult leader the year before I finally woke up, where I said to him, I think there's a psychopath in this organization doing stuff. And he was like, really? Tell me more. And so I misidentified who it was. And it was one of the people that went to prison.
That is fascinating.
And he, because I was so interested in sort of philosophical concepts, he said, well, tell me, how do you figure this out? Is it using your intellect? Is it a feeling? And I thought that was such an interesting discussion. Yes. I didn't realize he just diverted me. So what he would do is we would pit us against each other.
Yes.
Every time I said, I noticed the woman doing this thing. I don't think that's healthy. Why are they doing that?
Yes.
And he'd say things, well, they're all a bunch of socialists and women, blah, blah, blah. And they're yada, all the misogynistic shit.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, but you're in charge.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. He says, well, they don't all listen to me. I said, but.
So just straight up the gaslighting, manipulation, Darvo right in your face. And because he's still in that position of authority, you question what you're asking, and
constantly.
And you actually believed that the psychopath was somebody else in the organization.
I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, it turned out the person did have a pathology.
Okay.
But I didn't realize who the master, controller was of everything.
Yes.
That took me a while. And I think, and this is the thing I hope for everybody, when you finally see the crack, like for me, the crack was, my wife said to me, like, what will it take for you to realize things were not okay?
So she could see
it
before. And was she in the cult as well? Wow.
Yeah.
So she could see from the inside, like, that's so phenomenal, because it's the hardest thing in the world. Like when you're in it, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, it doesn't matter how worldly or experienced with, anything you are. It is almost, it's like a completely brainwashed, blinding. You cannot see reality because you're being effectively, your reality is being actively and constantly distorted by somebody with malevolent intentions. So, and if they're good, which many narcissists are, unfortunately, you believe the delusion of the reality that they're presenting to you, which is obviously nothing to do with actual reality. So it's like your what's that thing on a ship, the compass?
The compass,
it's like your internal compass is being purposefully like always off. Always. So you cannot find. So it's so amazing that you had her, and how did she find the truth? Like, how did she see through it?
It's a long story. It was basically a very deep spiritual connection moment that she had.
Yeah.
Actually, it took like 10 days. She took 10 days away from everything because she was like, my body's responding so badly to everything. Wow. I feel terrible.
Yes.
I feel ill. I don't feel well. She went away. We were at that point in Albany, New York. She came out here to Marina Del Rey because we had friends. She stayed there and just sat still and said, okay, what's this terrible fear I have? What's going on? And she had a moment, I guess, where she kind of woke up and she said to me, like, things are really bad.
Wow.
And she didn't even know what was bad at that point. So it took us a while to figure out what was really going on.
Yes.
But what I think happened is she tuned very deeply into her own body and her feeling and her intuition, which I was so disconnected from at that point. And then
how many years had you been in the cult at that point?
12 years. But we weren't, we weren't there all the time. I had a place here in LA. I was going back and forth all the time. So I had access to the world.
Yes, yes.
But I had been very, very conditioned at that point. So she said to me one day, like, what will it take? And I said, just give me evidence. And so she said, I have 2 women I want you to talk to. I spoke to the 2 women, and the stories they told me were identical of what the leader was doing. And I had no reason to doubt them. Because I realized, there's no reason they would lie. So then I went to him and I started asking him questions. Because what he was doing, just so the audience understands, is that underneath this business school, he had blackmailed all these women and had created this weird sex slave MLM thing going on where the woman were being cauterized with his initials like right next to their vagina. It was really
branded.
Horrible stuff.
Horrifying. And
he was trying to entrap all these women. And so then I went to him and I said, I'm hearing about a secret society. And like, what secret society? He said, like, of these women who are being blackmailed.
Yeah.
And are having to give collateral. He says, well, I don't know anything about that. And I says, well, I highly doubt you don't know anything about that because you're in charge of everything.
Yes. And
he says, well, I'll investigate. And I was like, you're lying.
You're lying.
You
saw it and the, like, you could see through the veil of the deception.
And then what happened is this is one lie.
Yeah.
Like, what if there's more?
Yes, yes.
And then I began asking more and more questions. And then I began realizing, he's lying about everything. So all the conversations we were having at that point, he was trying to sort of, head fuck me. And I was like, okay, I could be wrong, but. And I was starting to, and I was working at that point. I was doing a project for a task force here in LA that was LAPD, FBI, and a bunch of other groups about human trafficking. And I was beginning to ask questions of the woman I was interviewing about, like, why did you not run away? Why did you? Because I thought, well, you're chained. And they said, we're never chained. And I said, you're never chained? You were never locked up? They said, no. So I began to understand that and then realized, oh my God, that's what he's doing.
Yes.
So it was a whole series of things.
That is so fascinating. So you're learning about essentially like how they, I call it farm prison. Like I was in farm prison, even though, yes, I wasn't physically changed, but I was psychologically coerced for years leading up to my physical, like I was not allowed to leave the farm where we lived. I was not allowed to have friends. I was not allowed to go to church. I was not allowed to go to anything outside of the farm. I was convinced that, I would be raped or murdered. Or the one time,
if I
left, yes, I like, I didn't have a car for years, but when I asked for Christmas, like the only thing I wanted was my car to be brought from LA, to outside of Nashville where we lived. I was not allowed to use it because it was the threat of the punishment that it wasn't like it was sitting there just for months. Like he had done such a brilliant job of psychologically capturing me to the point where I was terrified of the outside world. I truly believed he was my protector, ironically. Yeah. And of course, when the person that is torturing you and traumatizing you in that way has convinced you that they are the only one that can save you. It's the ultimate, and it's
classical interrogation techniques. It's the same. I mean, if you look at the CIA manual of interrogation, it's the same shit these guys are doing.
Really?
It's extraordinary. Yeah.
So I'm so fascinated. I have a million questions for you, but how do they have this playbook downloaded? Like, is that part of the psychopathy? Like, how is it that each narcissist has the identical way that they instinctually know how to abuse their survivor
I don't
victims?
have a clinician's answer because I'm not an expert in that way. But what I've come to is their brains are similar, their nervous systems are similar, and at the base of everything, they have a terrible, terrible need that is unquenchable. Okay. And the only way to make it feel better, at least temporarily, is to control everything.
Right.
So they control everything.
Yes.
And they have to try and destabilize people so that they can sort of turn them into what they want them to be. So you're a person. I don't want you to be a person. Yes. I want you to be a robot. Yes. So I need to almost disembowel your psyche and your soul so that you can become who I want you to be, which is a loyal slave.
Loyal slave. Exactly.
So
yes.
I think it comes from this desperate, pathological, really screwed up need they have and this emptiness that they're trying to fill all the time, I think. And that's why they seem to behave the same way, whether it's somebody running a corporation or somebody running a church in an evil, bad way or politically, it's all the same.
But do they ever get that? Like, essentially, you become the supply, and for everyone who's survived a narcissist, you know what that is, which is essentially you're feeding that endless void of them feeling. But just like any void that can't be filled, it is endless, and it only gets worse. Yeah. And it only progressively gets worse. So all the literature and every expert will tell you it will never get better. You are not the exception. You are however much you deeply love this person, if they are truly a narcissist, you will inevitably be decimated. There is only one way that this is going. And of course, I have so many beautiful souls reaching out to me in my DMs every day, sometimes sharing the most incredibly inspiring and wonderful stories. Just recently, this amazing survivor just shared with me that her and her son left and that she's been 4 months out. And, it's just like the hope and belief that all the work that we're doing to advocate and share this information in any way is going to please God, culturally shift their understanding because, and I think that your film is going to be so tremendous for that because it's going to be like I don't want to use compass again, but like a benchmark, what's the cornerstone that we can point to, and because not everyone can read a book if they're in captivity. Essentially, like you're not allowed. I know for me, I wasn't just allowed to have a book of narcissism sitting there. I would have been punished for it. So maybe there's ways, especially on social media, to see the clips and,
There are. We've posted a whole bunch of clips. And actually what we started doing now, we posted a bunch of clips from the film. There's a bunch of things, that we're not revealing because, as you know, there's a twist in the film. The film, just so the audience understands, it starts out like what seems to be, maybe it's going to be an educational documentary and then it becomes a thriller. Yes. Like out of nowhere. Yes. Documents to some degree, what we went through. But we're now putting out a lot of clips that never made it into the film. And we have so much material that never made it in the film. We might do more. Yes. So we have every person we interviewed, we interviewed them for at least 3 hours. Wow. Some way more. Yes. So we have a lot of material. That makes perfect sense. Even just the Evan Rachel Wood's story is so, I can just relate so much. Yeah. And she's just, the most beautiful, honest, she's amazing. She is clearly. And I am so grateful that she was
brave enough and willing to share her story and testify, because it's so important, especially for women, but obviously all survivors. But
you know what's amazing as well, and this is a testament to like it happens at different scales. Evan actually reached out to my wife and I.
Yeah, she reached out to you guys.
Well, after the vow, she first reached out to my wife, and then then her and I spoke, because at one point I was trying to help them with a bunch of sort of legal and law enforcement things that I understood. And then we were kind of friends for a while. And then I think about a year later, I said, "Hey, Evan, I'm making this film. And, would you be in?" Before I finished the sentence, she said, "Yes, I'm in." Amazing. So, and she's very happy with, I showed her a cut recently. Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, she's extraordinary.
She is. But again, she saw the vow, she saw a cult story, and she was like, well, that's actually my story as well. Yes. Everybody has that experience when they watch like a cult documentary. Exactly. I think when people watch Narcissist Playbook, they'll have the same thing. I'm currently doing a podcast series about another cult called Instaguru. Wow. The amount of people that reach out and say, I was never in a cult, but I was in a relationship with one. Or I had a boss who was one. Yes. And it's the same stuff. Yes. It's always the same.
Do you know, maybe it's like too horrifying to know, but what percentage of the population have NPD?
I've heard 5 to 7%, but then I've heard people say it's up to 20%, maybe 25%. I think it depends. Yeah. Like if you go to Wall Street, it's high. Okay, yes. Hollywood, it's high. Yes, right. Hollywood is high. Yes. This town is very, very high. So I think 5% is low. Okay, that totally makes sense. Different industries attract higher percentages, because especially if the industry, if the brand is a person, therefore, of course, that attracts a higher percentage. Exactly, and then there's corporations that basically behave like narcissists or behave like psychopaths who've been designed by those people.
Absolutely, yes. Have you ever read Scott Peck, People of the Lie, by chance? He's the author of The Road Less Traveled.
I never finished it.
So good. It's my favorite book. It's really? I just think I just love that he comes from the psychological perspective and also the spiritual perspective, and sort of marries the two, because it's I think the acceptance that we live amongst people who present as people, but they are capable of such atrocities, and the way I see it is, psychopaths kill bodies and narcissists kill souls. Yeah. And it's to explain that to someone who, just leave. Like, how many people am I going? It's your fault because you had two legs, but if people understand that you're clearly incredibly intelligent. Your wife is clearly incredibly intelligent.
Smarter than me.
How would you explain to somebody that, is just ignorant on the idea of your free will has essentially been taken away from you? How would you explain that an intelligent, worldly, successful couple, even together with you guys together, still it took years to uncover?
Yeah, one silly, and maybe it's a very male metaphor, is if you have a plane that has a radar system built in, the plane can get away, but if you disable the radar system, where's the plane going to go? You have to disable the radar system, which means you disable the person's ability to connect deeply to their own feelings, because what you tell them is those feelings are bad. Yes. You're you're too emotional, you're too this, you're too that, you're too this. Yes. And then also what they do is they slowly invert your morality. So now the very system that you should use to decide what is good and bad in your life, you don't know how to use properly. Yes. And then the things that are normal, like you're being abused and you feel bad, that bad feeling, especially in a cult, you're made to believe that that's your limitation. That's your weakness. Right. You don't have what it takes. Yes. I thought you were serious about this. Yes. Totally. I'm feeling bad. Yes. Well, that's because you're just weak. Well, that's because you don't have what it takes. when people leave cults, that's the first thing they do. You don't have what it takes. Right now at this podcast I'm doing, the loyalists get on YouTube and they do some version of, they didn't understand the teachings. And I was like, all right, well, let me show you the teachings. I want to show you what the teachings are.
That's so insidious and it's your own instincts turned against you and then weaponized. It's I always think, in a personal relationship version, it's your capacity to love is used as a weapon to then hurt you. And the deeper that's why, they specifically often target empaths, because the endless ability to forgive somebody that is hurting you so profoundly is actually to their advantage. So, and it's really hard in that situation to first get clarity, but then also, find, because you're so worn down by the abuse and the like psychological, it's like your brain is scrambled eggs in a way. You can't figure out like, well, of course they're the version that loves me, because otherwise I'm literally deeply in love with somebody who's enjoying hurting me. And how do you accept that? Because then what does that make you?
I know. It's interesting. There's one other thought I have, and I just released an episode of what's called Instaguru, episode 9 today. And in the very beginning, I talk about the psychological immune system. They basically disable your psychological immune system. But then what they have you do is they have your own immune system work against you.
Right.
So you're having these feelings about the person that says they love you. And you start to go, that's because I'm bad that I have these feelings. I shouldn't have these feelings.
Wow.
The normal feelings.
Yes.
Like if you're creeped out, now you start to take apart the fact that you're creeped out as your problem.
Yes.
Because why are you creeped out about somebody that's providing for you financially? Okay, sometimes they're mean, but they're also nice.
Yes.
So you're starting to hold on to the nice because, as you say, you don't want to accept. What if you accept that the person's horrible and evil?
Yes.
Your whole life is about to explode. So you have to lock it down.
Yes.
But your own immune system that's supposed to protect you begins to take you apart. Like they install criticism. They install self-doubt in you. Well, everybody has it.
Yes.
But they exacerbate and make it worse. So now you're literally tearing yourself apart. They're not even in the room. You're tearing yourself apart because you're such a piece of shit.
Yes.
Because you can't just get on board with this relationship that they told you the reason this relationship is not working is because of you.
Absolutely. Yes.
And you're like, no, it's because of them.
Yes. It's really, it's like spiritual warfare, psychological warfare. And you feel, when you're in it, you feel like you're in a war.
Yeah.
And when you please God, hopefully everyone who is currently in it escapes, and then you look back and you reflect, and you almost like can't recognize the version of yourself that was, unable, because I just celebrated 10 years of sobriety last week.
Wow.
And I went through this, entire relationship, which was like, I had known him for 15 years. He'd started grooming me from when I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And 10 years later, I was in this romantic relationship, and I had no idea I was in serious danger until about like maybe 2.5 years in.
Yeah.
And even when I was, I found like, scrolling late night, just tears scrolling, like, sorry, it's so difficult to talk about, but it's like, he'd be fast asleep and I'd be just like desperate for answers. Like, what is my life? How is this my life? What is wrong with me that I am in this position? And how do I fix this? And I found the term, narcissist, and I found the term narcissistic abuse, and every single thing, these accounts with the information, I was like, that's what it is. And it was like this, first time I'd felt kind of the oxygen of like, maybe I'm, not crazy, or maybe I'm like, because at that point my self-worth had been, so whittled down to absolutely nothing, that I genuinely, like, it's just, it's the wildest thing. And in retrospect, I guess I just think, what if I had not found what I was dealing with? Because even then it took, years, and I didn't have the ability to, like, snap myself out of it. It was like, there was no amount of me understanding what was happening to me.
Did you find though, because when you said like you realize you're in a war, but like I didn't realize I was in a war, because I had so disconnected and I felt so dissociated that I didn't realize that I was at a war until I began to connect deeply to what I was feeling. And then I was like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Because you become so, I don't know if was like this for you, but you become so desensitized to how bad it is until you wake up. And then when you wake up, weirdly enough, you have this PTSD, CPTSD, like suddenly you're like, oh my God.
Yes.
Like, it's horrible.
Yes.
And I've been making horrible okay.
That's so interesting. I feel like I split into two. I was in cognitive dissonance, and it was like there was two realities happening at the same time. It was like, baby, I'm so sorry. I'll never call you that again. I'll never, that, and the relief, and I can breathe, and I'm not crazy, and everything's good, and it's fine. However long that would last, and then the crazy narcissistic rage slammed in my face, and then oh my gosh, no, my reality, no, it's narcissistic abuse. That's really my reality. And so I was like oscillating for years between the two. And it was so exhausting. And so I, like journaled extensively. I'm a songwriter. So I wrote it all in these songs when I was, in a silent treatment. And essentially, it was me trying to convince myself of the truth against like my own brain.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And so I don't think a lifetime of kind of like dismantling it will ever, I don't think you can ever fully understand, but your film does the most profound job of showing, it in a length of a film, what the experience is like. And I think for anyone, who's blessed enough to have never survived it will get the like experience, like any great film. I think, because I mean, I have in every little screening we've done, and we did one at UCLA for clinicians like a month ago. Pretty much everybody said like, I did not see it coming. Yeah. I did not see the twist coming. Yes. And also they all acknowledge that what's great about the film, and I agree, is that it takes you through the experience of what it's like to be fooled. Yes. Yes.
Because everybody goes, well, how could you be fooled?
Yes.
And like, you go through the experience in the movie, you're like, that's how it works.
Yes, exactly. And the fact, like, they, as part of the psychopathy, they are masters at the idolization, love bombing, that phase. It feels like nothing else that you've ever experienced in terms of, it's like they zone in on everything that you have ever not had, and everything you've always been longing for in a partner, and they become that. It's almost like a chameleon, is that? Like,
somebody described it as they become the perfect mother you never had. Or maybe you did have an amazing mother, but they basically like figure out what are all your wounds, and that's like the lock.
Yes.
They have the key then, because they've extracted the information of what your wounds are, what you yearn for, what you're afraid of.
Yes.
And they put that key in and turn it.
Yes.
And you have elation because you're finally seen in a way you've never been seen before.
Yes.
And now they're going to give you, at least at first, the ultimate love, like maybe a mother's love. Of course, they want that in return as well. And because you're a human being and you're not like their delusion, at some point they're going to get upset at you. Because you're not behaving like the robot fashion you should behave, right?
Yes, exactly.
But it is elating, and that's the thing I think people don't understand. It's like, think about teenage love, which is stupid. That is a bit how it sometimes feels. Because you're given the answers.
Yeah, I think teenage love is beautiful.
It's beautiful, but it's silly.
Yes,
it's unreasonable. You do silly things, your brain goes offline.
Yes,
and it's just like, gaga, wow, this is amazing, and like, you're my soul, whatever.
I had friends, at the time, see immediately what was happening, and they didn't know about narcissism, but they were like, this is a predator who is trying to ensnare you, essentially. Like so watch out, you're in danger. And I thought, they have no idea. They have no idea. And of course, in retrospect, I feel terrible because they were genuinely like caring for me and didn't want what happened to me to happen. But I had no idea at that point that I was in such danger.
Yeah.
And I'm so interested, like did you guys, like you and your wife, join the NXIVM cult at the same time?
No, I joined first.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And because I knew a lot of people in the film industry, I was enrolling a lot of people like from Hollywood and wherever.
Yeah.
And a few years after I met her, she joined as well.
Yeah.
And then she just stayed because the other thing is there were good things.
Yes, of course.
Like there was really good education there.
Yes.
It went bad in the end. Where it led was very, very bad, but there was good stuff in there.
Yeah.
So, she was in for 7 years and I was in for 12. But I will tell you, when I first went in, I thought these people get me.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the way they scouted me, first of all.
How?
So I made this film called What the Bleep Do We Know, right? Back in, we released it in 2004. They began scouting me. They watched every radio interview I did, every TV interview I did, everything I wrote.
Yes.
They had meetings about me to figure out like, what does Mark want?
Yes.
Now, what did Mark want at that point? I want to change the world through movies. That's what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
Still kind of do.
Yes.
So they wrote me emails and they wrote me letters. And then they said to me one day, hey, we'd like to meet some people that you know. Can we pick you up? And I said, sure. So I go to the airport They land in a private Learjet, and we fly around the country for the next like 10 days or whatever it was.
Total love
in this
bombing.
Learjet,
Yes.
and which they own, saying,
Yes.
we'd like to help you make your movies. We're going to help you finance your movies.
Of course.
Now, to a filmmaker, to
Of
any
course.
artist,
Yes, of course.
it's like, you know,
Yes.
I'm in.
Yes,
what do we
absolutely.
do?
Yeah.
Well, before you make these films that we're going to help you finance,
Yeah.
we need to fix you a little bit. Like, you know, you want to be humanitarian, but there's a bunch of things about you that aren't very humanitarian, like your anger at people and your rage at like other people, you know, and that all that projective stuff. Why don't we work on you first? Because if you want to build a better civilization, don't you think you should be a better you?
On a silver platter, all your deepest heart's desires, your hopes and dreams, everything you've worked your whole life for. But the caveat is we need to fix you first.
You got some things to tweak.
Yeah.
You know, there's some things to tweak in your personality. You're wonderful as you are, really. But like those examples. And I go through these courses, and of course things would happen. They said, like there, for example, that anger you have.
Yeah.
How are you going to change the world if you're so angry? I was like, that's a good point. You know, I don't want to be angry. I want to be humanitarian.
Yeah.
Like I want to, you know, be ethical and like, you know, reasonable and compassionate. And I don't want to be that person. Well, why don't we work on like changing that person?
They convinced you to believe that they were the only solution for these perceived flaws.
Because I had tried a lot of other things.
Okay, yes.
And what they presented me was what they call the tech, you know.
Yeah. That
was very effective. I mean, I went in, and I think on the fourth day of this particular intensive, you know, they said like, who has a phobia or something? I said, I have a phobia. You know, I have panic attacks in traffic.
Yes.
Because I was living in LA.
Yes.
And I mean, but also other things happen. I knew exactly why I had the panic attacks.
Yes.
But I could never do anything about them. I went to therapy. Nothing would do it. In about 50 minutes, the head trainer worked on me and something shifted. And I was like, I feel very differently. And I went back to LA. I forgot about it.
Yes.
Went back to LA, and about 3 weeks later, I was in traffic, and I was like, that's weird. I'm in traffic on the 405. Nothing's moving. And I'm, whoa,
and
it worked. My life is going to be better.
Yes.
I was taking side streets everywhere.
Yes.
Which in LA, as you know, is very hard.
Yes.
But I thought, well, so if I can get rid of this phobia,
do you know
imagine the other things I could do.
What did they do to do that?
They dissociated me into a specific siloed part of my brain where I didn't feel that. I understood later.
Yes.
In 2017, I reached out to this culty programmer who was supposedly Satan and the enemy kind of thing. And I reached out to him and I said, do you know who I am? He says, I know exactly who you are.
Yes.
Because, you know, we were enemies. And he realized that I was waking up, and like I realized it was bad. And he said to me, all the psychological things you had when you went in are waiting for you. They fixed nothing. I'm like, nothing? He says, it's all waiting for you. And as I woke up, the phobias, everything came back because all that they'd done is help me dissociate those parts and not feel them. They were still there.
That is fascinating. I didn't even know that was a thing that you could psychologically do. But of course, a real therapist wouldn't do that because
it's burying something.
Yes.
You don't want to bury that stuff. You want it to come out so we can work in it and look at it and say, there it is. And what's the fear? And how do we go back to whatever.
Yeah.
So they did a very interesting technique, but what they did is in some ways they made you have distance from the thing, almost like you were desensitized to the thing, but that doesn't really do anything.
And when you were waking up, and it's so interesting because I remember so clearly the very moment that, you know, years after I had been thrown into the cognitive dissonance of these two realities, like, you know, I have these extensive journals documenting exactly the truth of what I was living.
Wow.
But then, of course, I have, you know.
So you're writing honestly what you were feeling?
Yeah, like secretly in my notes app.
Okay,
and
got it.
In the lyrics of these songs that, you know, I'm now like turning into actual records, and it's just blatantly there. It's verbatim, you know, because that's where songwriting comes from, directly from your soul. And so I'm pouring out the truth in these lyrics. And then simultaneously, like as soon as I love you so much, you know, I'm so sorry, that'll never happen again. Like the mask came back on.
Yeah.
It's like I forgot, almost like I would like, so it's just, it's fascinating in terms of like the psychology of how I guess our brains are trying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And so therefore, like you buried and pushed away these things that were at the time hurting you, but like you were being manipulated to do that by people that were significantly hurting you more than the panic attacks were.
Yes.
That's so
In
interesting.
the long run, yes.
Yeah.
And they understood stuff about the way of human behavior that was pretty profound to me at the time.
Yes.
Now I understand what I'm looking at because I've studied a lot more.
Yes.
But at the time I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And
Yeah.
what was the way the intensives worked is that, like, and what was so exciting is, you know, you came in with a certain belief or a thought, and then by the end of the day, you thought completely differently, and that seemed to stay. And I was like,
Wow.
I want to do that with movies.
Yes.
Like, I want to make
yes.
movies where people walk in and they go through the experience of the film and they come out thinking differently forever.
Yes. Yes.
So that's why, to me, it was like, this is amazing. I'm gonna stick it out and see where it leads.
And in those years, did they actually like help you make the films? Or
so this is what's funny. The same as with a narcissistic abusive relationship. I sat and waited because they said, like, and the leader said, you know, I'll work with you at some point, kind of thing. Or maybe the second in command said it, and I thought, okay, this dude's super smart. He's developed this amazing thing that can change people. Like, okay, we need to work in a movie. And I was frustrated because I just waited and waited and waited. And on my birthday, he called me one morning and said, let's take a walk.
Yeah.
Took a walk, and he says, I want to tell you an idea for a film. And I was like, this is great. I get to work with him. So I wrote the first treatment for the film, right? And he said, it's amazing. And everybody said, it's amazing.
Yes.
That was the last compliment I got for 12 years. Everything after that was not good enough. So I couldn't make anything because it wasn't. And eventually I was like, I'm going to make this thing. I'm going to go make that thing. And it was like, well, you're being very independent. And, you know, what's wrong with being independent? You're being very arrogant. No, I'm not. I'm a director. That's, you know, we kind of take up a little space down again.
It's so wild. It's literally like you could just copy paste.
So, right.
Even though it's completely different scenario, even different relationship type, yet the identical playbook.
You're amazing. Like, your music's amazing. Your voice is amazing.
You're the best songwriter I've ever written with. Yeah. It's like, you're the most talented. The first thing he ever said about me, like, and he's, you know, to People magazine or whatever, like, the moment I saw her, I knew she was a star, and that, like, it's like nauseating, obviously. But
and then did he pick away at you after that?
Absolutely. Like the devaluation, the idolizations, you know, I mean, granted, I guess you could, depending on the timelines, it started, slowly progressed over 10 years. He got my trust. He had my complete trust that I genuinely believed he was, you know, for me.
Yeah.
And before the romantic relationship, you know, before the love bombing and the ensnarement kind of happened, and it was so, you know, full on.
Oh,
all
so you
at once.
totally trusted.
Completely.
You felt,
For 10 years, I had believed that this person was my friend, even though, you know, some of his behavior was entirely inappropriate for a friend. And also, like, he was over twice my age, and like, what is he doing being friends with the 22-year-old? It didn't make any sense, but it was you know, I didn't see the mask off until I had essentially like moved in with him. And by that point we were engaged, and it was like that was my whole life. So I guess it's really difficult for people to understand, because it's like, well, the first time you see the behavior, you know, that's obviously inconsistent, words not matching actions, and, you know, the triangulation and the intermittent reinforcement, all that happens way before. But you don't see the monster. You don't see what's really is. You excuse and you make, you know, like, I'm so interested with your cult leader. Like, when was the first moment that you saw the mask completely come off, and what did you tell yourself about that moment?
I think it was actually, to some degree, it was that lie.
Right. Okay.
Because I remember, and there was another conversation we'd had where I said to him, I remember exactly where I was. I was in Las Feliz. I lived in this apartment building, and I was on the roof. Some of those buildings have these amazing roofs with views. I was on the roof talking to him, and I said, I'm noticing that everybody that's going through this one particular course that you've started is miserable. And they're unhappy. And he says, yes, you know, well, you know, it takes a bit of time. I said, no. It's been years. And they are a shell of themselves. In fact, some of those women are so skinny, their skin looks translucent to me. Like, and I said, like, this one, Allison Mack, the actress, and I said to him, Allison looks terrible. And he said to me, well, she's still getting her period. And I'm like, what? In my mind, I'm like, why are we even discussing her period?
Yes.
How do you know?
Yes.
What is going on?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening here?
Wow.
I didn't understand he was sleeping with everybody. forcing them because they were all blackmailed. Because he had like their bank accounts, the ATM cards. He had forced confessions out of them. People had to make up confessions if it wasn't real. Somebody made up a confession her father raped her, which he never did, all to be used as leverage so he could do whatever he wanted. But those kind of moments were like, why are we talking about somebody's another woman's like periods?
Absolutely, yes.
What is going on here? And then I realized that he's monitoring everybody. He's trying to see how skinny can he get them, and they're still vaguely functional. And the thing, of course, at that point, as I'm sure everybody knows, when you're sleep deprived, as we all were, and then you're deprived of calories because these girls went down to 350, 500 a day, which is like, that's not good.
Nothing.
You can't think anymore.
Of course. Yes.
And that was the stuff I was like, something's not right. But this is what, and you'll understand this, I still held him because it was sort of a military structure.
Yes.
He's the commander. I still held him as like, well, he's still the boss.
Yes.
So like, that's weird. Doesn't make sense. I don't know what's going on, but okay, we'll keep on going until I realized, oh no, you're just a shit boss. Wow. You're horrible.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And then and when you finally like woke up and you and your wife really like came to terms with the fact that what you were dealing with, how quickly did you get out of it?
Well, she was basically said, I'm going to go to LA full time. We're moving. So we had a place here, and it took her about 6 months to like get me to really get it.
Yeah.
Once I woke up, the full wake up was a shattering day for me.
Yes.
I had suicidal ideation. I was like, what is going on? And the way I describe it is I woke up, remember Stranger Things?
I haven't actually seen it.
Some of your audience will have seen it.
Yeah.
There's this upside down world that is exactly like this world. It's just upside down and it's dark and evil and horrible. I woke up in that world and thought, I thought this was the normal world. I'm upside down and backwards. My moral compass is all over the place. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
What is good? What is bad? What is happening?
Yeah.
So that was a terrible day because my life had been defined by, I was raised in South Africa. I saw terrible things like I was against apartheid. I made anti-apartheid films.
Wow.
So morality was important to me.
Yes.
And I realized suddenly everything's backwards.
Yeah.
Like I think this thing is good. I think it's actually evil.
Yeah.
So what does that mean about me?
Yes.
And then my rage set in. Because then I was like, I have all these friends, my female friends. He's doing terrible things to them. And that's when I developed this kind of rage. You know how there's red hot rage and there's white hot rage. The white hot rage it's a terrible thing. It's very cold and very calm. And I'm like, this ends now.
That's amazing.
And we all began working together and we finally got to the FBI and got him in prison.
And you were like the head witness for the trial?
There were a few. I wasn't the only one. But I opened the trial. I was the second. My job in the trial was to set up the way the whole thing worked.
Yes.
And then they began bringing out all the women that had been abused after that so that the jury had a sense of like, oh, this is the cover.
Yes.
And then I began to tell them what was going on underneath, which sounds like, well, that's weird.
No.
Then they presented all the female witnesses and people that had turned state's evidence and said, yeah, okay, this is what's really going on.
How long after that horrifying day was the trial?
So my big wake up would have been May 2017. The trial was May 2019, so 2 years later. And
in those 2 years, like, did everything just kind of come back to you from the lens of clarity, of reality that you...
Not totally, because we were at war.
Yes,
because they were after us. They were trying to put us in prison.
Yes.
They had private investigators looking for us. They were trying to destroy us.
Yeah.
We had the FBI on our side, which they didn't really understand. So it was just war.
Yeah.
I think I only really got to slow down. I remember when the trial started, the FBI agents that I was spending time with said it's going to be 6 weeks and then it's over and then just you need to do your life and it's going to be hard because you're so busy fighting. And when the trial was over, I was like, now what? Yeah. Because the fight was done.
Yes.
And there
you
wasn't
guys
emptiness.
Won.
We won.
Thank God.
He's in prison now for... he went to prison for 120 years. He served 5 years so far. So he's dying in prison.
You're a hero, a true
Well, it was necessity.
Hero.
It was necessity.
I mean, but it's like when you think about how many lives are destroyed in silence and they never get that justice.
Yeah.
And for every survivor, there's a victim that didn't become a survivor.
Yeah.
And that is so extraordinary that you guys got that justice.
That's what we wanted. We wanted to stop him hurting any other people. And that's, I guess, why I'm still just, in some ways, I still am trying to do that.
Yes.
Like I see bad things happening. I see usually bad men. And I'm like, that needs to stop.
Yes.
And it's not like revenge. And it's not like, that's an evil person I'm upset. It's more just like, no, you're going to stop hurting these women.
Yes.
It's mostly women that are getting hurt in the situations that I'm busy exposing currently.
Yes. That's so phenomenal. I'm so grateful that you exist, Mark.
I think I'm insane though, because I don't know. I don't think I can do this forever.
It's an insane world, and you're doing something that is against the grain in a heroic way. And that takes tremendous courage and fortitude. And I think that it is just incredibly admirable. And I wish there was more yous, and I'm so grateful. I wish there were
more people as well, because it's rough.
Yeah.
The fight's rough.
It is. And I know that, I mean, it's like I look at my life so far, and I know I would have designed it very differently, but I also know that you get the hand you're dealt, and it's what you do with it. And I know that there's this, very clear opportunity for me to alchemize the pain that I had to survive to help as many others as I possibly can.
And the thing is, they don't realize this. They made us.
Yeah.
We're sitting here. Yeah. They made this happen.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Their bad stuff made us be like, okay, you know what? I got to start talking.
Yeah. You're right. Like, that's actually a really beautiful thing to think that. I mean, that's in the Bible.
It's weird.
That's like every weapon formed against you, like not only shall not prosper, but that you will use it to fight against that evil. Like that's a fundamental spiritual truth that essentially like light is stronger than darkness, no matter how like desperate and hopeless it feels. Ultimately, like the arc of justice goes towards truth.
Do you feel though, I feel this thing, and I want to see what you think, that I feel like this is the age of exposure, and it's just going to get more and more.
Absolutely.
Like stuff can't hide anymore.
Absolutely. Right? I think the veil has sort of thinned to a point that people, culturally, they are not willing to be deceived anymore. They're not willing to participate in their own deception. I mean, it's obviously when you're being directly targeted by a cult leader or narcissist, it's, a lot more, it's a lot more difficult to kind of wake up to that. But I think culturally people, you even to see like since the pandemic, people don't want to just believe what they're being told. Like people are much more, I think, like, distrusting of authority and government and all of that stuff. 2020
was my year, as I guess. Some bullshit going on.
Yeah. So, exactly. Yeah. And I think I just see, I have these unbelievably amazing survivor friends who I just, I adore with my whole heart. And, Crystal Harris and Courtney Stodden and Aubrey O'Day. And, they have survived some of the ultimate predators. And, I don't even want to mention their names because the predators are not worth mentioning, but they're now, like coming into this, I feel culturally and I feel socially that we're only at the very beginning of women who have been, just decimated by these like narcissists and predators and it's been so abundant and culturally it's only just begun to be really unveiled. Like, Rose McGowan and these pioneers of movements essentially that weren't happening 10 years or 20 years ago.
And I think that's why one of the things I think the film is important as well, and I want people to see the film is I think the film gives them a structure to see these things through. They go, that's we show the pattern of how it works. And so people can walk out of the theater and go like, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is.
Yes.
To have the glasses, the vision to see.
Exactly. And give it, the narcissist playbook, but I like the Instagram is the narcissist playbook.
I know.
Yes. The narcissist playbook is going to be, and I just declare that, going to be the film that changes the culture around people understanding what narcissistic abuse actually is. And therefore, because it's so brilliantly done, it's going to be something that could be, experts can direct it to, but also just friends, like, babe, this is what you're dealing with. This is what, and they watch it and they're
that's what we're hoping.
Yes.
That's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to say is shameless plug for the film. We are survivor funded.
Yes.
We have no studio behind us.
Yes.
You know, we have no streamer behind us. It's all survivors, you know, that have donated money, and we're still raising money as we speak.
Yes.
Because we're going to do it direct to consumer. We're putting in theaters ourselves. We're doing everything ourselves, so they can't control anything.
That's incredible,
Yeah.
because like I've seen you know, talk about on your posts that essentially, which I completely understand, the big machine of Hollywood does not necessarily want to expose
They are not excited.
Like, you know, mechanics of narcissistic anything, because they are benefiting from the people's blindness to it. And I think that like that is my hope, is that, you know, we are at this precipice that once this information, you know, is out there in this way, like testimonies of survivors, different stories from different angles, and it's so clear that this thing, it's not just, you know, unfortunately, which I'm sure happens to every survivor, I've lost deeply important relationships to me since coming out and speaking publicly about surviving, which was, you know, in addition to everything, just so heartbreaking that these people who I believe fundamentally are really good people, they just don't understand. And therefore they think that, you know, I'm doing something wrong by becoming an advocate and talking about, you know, they say like, you know, it's what happened in private, and you know, and I can't explain. I know that, you know, this was not my choice of my calling. It's just been, you know, it's impossible for me to not share what I've learned.
I know, exactly. And the other thing, you know, that's what I'm hoping the film will be as well, is I know the survivors will see the film and be like, I need so-and-so to see this film because they'll understand what I've been talking about.
Exactly.
But here's the film.
Yes.
Watch the film.
Exactly.
You'll get it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And anyone who's unwilling to even just watch a film, like whatever that relationship is, no matter how painful it is to lose that, if you're going to actually heal from, you know, what we have to, you have to almost like commit to the truth above all else, above anything, because then new people will come into your life that not only recognize, you know, like the courage that it's taken for you to survive what you have, but they will support you. You'll be surrounded, you know. I
mean, it's amazing we've gotten this far, and it's all because of survivors, you know.
Exactly.
And we're still raising money, so please go to the website.
Yes. Please donate.
Narcissistsplaybook.com is the website.
Narcissistplaybook.com. I'm so grateful to have had this chance to connect with you in person, and thank you so much for making the time.
Oh my God, absolutely.
It really means the world, and I can't wait for everyone to watch your film, and I can't wait for the narrative to change, that people immediately just recognize like, oh yeah, I know about that. They like, it's not this mystery anymore.
Yeah.
And please God that if, you know, someone is being ensnared, that they can recognize it before it gets to the decimation, before it gets to the, you know, years and years of absolute living hell, and then eventually, we got to change that culture, because it's not okay.
We do.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.